Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
What started as a calm discussion on The View about family and responsibility turned into one of the most intense on-air clashes in recent memory. The topic seemed simple enough. Should the government give tax breaks to people who care for their elderly parents? But when Denzel Washington took his seat at the table, viewers had no idea what was about to unfold. From the very beginning, the energy was charged. Joy Behar came ready with tough questions, and Denzel brought his trademark calm until things got personal. What began as a polite back and forth over economics and fairness spiraled into a passionate debate about family values, dignity, and the role of government in America's aging crisis. The turning point? A single comment from Joy that struck a nerve, pushing Denzel to share a deeply personal story, and then, in a move nobody saw coming, leave the set entirely. This wasn't just television. It was a cultural lightning rod. Clips exploded across social media within minutes. Hashtags trended worldwide, and people are still asking, did Denzel go too far, or did he say what millions were thinking? Stay tuned, because this moment changed the conversation, and maybe the country. The studio lights gleamed off the polished table as the familiar theme music faded. The View's co-hosts exchanged their usual morning smiles, but the air already felt heavier than usual. Today's hot topic promised sparks. Should the government give tax breaks for people who take care of their elderly parents? Joy Behar, leaning slightly forward, set the tone. We all know America's aging population is growing fast, she began, voice sharp but laced with that trademark humor. But here's the question. Should taxpayers foot the bill for someone else's family responsibility? A polite chuckle from the audience. Joy smiled, but her eyes flicked toward Denzel Washington as if tossing the first pitch in a game she knew was about to heat up. Denzel, calm and collected in a navy blazer, gave a small nod. Well, Joy, first of all, thanks for having me, he said warmly, his gravelly voice instantly commanding attention. Look, this isn't about people dumping their responsibilities on the government. It's about helping families who are already doing the right thing. You've got sons and daughters working 2 jobs, trying to keep their parents out of nursing homes. That's not a handout. That's called honoring your mother and father. The table hummed with murmurs of agreement, and even Whoopi raised her brows, as if to say, he's got a point. Joy tilted her head, lips curling into that practiced smile. But Denzel, where does it stop? Every time someone does the right thing, do we cut them a check? People raise kids without asking for government money. Why not parents too? Denzel leaned forward slightly, a flicker of intensity crossing his face, though his tone stayed measured. Joy, with all due respect, this isn't the same. Raising kids is an investment in the future. Society benefits when they grow up. Taking care of aging parents, that's about dignity, about making sure the people who raised us don't spend their last years in some underfunded facility because their kids couldn't afford home care. Sunny Hostin jumped in, perhaps sensing the tension rising. It's a cultural thing, too, she added, hands gesturing smoothly. In many communities, taking care of elders at home is the norm. A little tax relief could go a long way in supporting that. Joy gave a short laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. So what, Sunny? Now the IRS becomes the family therapist? The audience laughed nervously, but Denzel didn't crack a smile. He sat back, folding his arms, his silence louder than words. Whoopi, ever the peacekeeper, tried to cut in. All right, let's keep it civil. We're just talking here. But the energy at the table had shifted. Denzel's jaw tightened slightly, and Joy, sensing the friction, pushed her chair an inch closer. The conversation had started politely enough, but the undercurrent was clear. 2 worldviews were on a collision course, and the millions watching at home could feel it coming. Joy wasn't about to let Denzel's point land without resistance. She leaned forward, palms on the table, her tone firm, but with that sarcastic lilt that always got the audience chuckling. "Denzel, come on," she said, tilting her head. "You make it sound like the government is Scrooge, and if we don't hand out tax breaks, we're sending Grandma to the poorhouse. That's dramatic. People have been taking care of their parents for centuries without Uncle Sam writing them a thank you note." A ripple of laughter spread through the audience. Joy smiled like she'd just scored, but Denzel's eyes didn't waver. He leaned in, voice calm, but carrying the weight of conviction. "Joy, with all due respect," he began, the cadence of his words sharp now, deliberate. "Centuries ago, families weren't drowning in medical bills the size of a mortgage. They weren't working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. Times have changed. The cost of dignity has skyrocketed, and we're still acting like this is 1950. You talk about responsibility, fine, but what about a government's responsibility to its citizens, to make sure people who paid taxes their whole lives aren't left in the cold when they need care the most?" The audience erupted in applause. Even Sunny nodded with a firm amen under her breath. But Joy was far from finished. She leaned back, crossing her arms with that look that said, "Oh, we're doing this." "Okay, but where does it end?" Joy shot back. "What's next? Tax breaks for babysitting your grandkids? For feeding your dog? At some point, people have to stop looking to the government to solve every single life problem." Denzel's voice dropped to register, calm but edged like steel. "Joy, taking care of an 80-year-old parent who can't walk or bathe alone isn't a life problem, Joy. It's not the same as walking your dog. It's an act of love that takes money, time, and sacrifice. And if we're going to call ourselves a society that values family, then policy should reflect that. Otherwise, it's just lip service." "Lip service," Joy repeated, raising her brows theatrically. "So now anyone who doesn't want to blow up the federal budget is giving lip service to family values?" The audience gave a mix of laughter and gasps. Whoopi tried to intervene, holding up her hands like a referee. All right, let's take a beat, folks. This is breakfast television, not fight night." But the heat wasn't cooling. Joy gave a short laugh that didn't sound friendly anymore. "Denzel, you make a great actor, but the world's not a movie. Somebody has to crunch the numbers." "And somebody," Denzel shot back without missing a beat, "has to care about people more than numbers." The room exploded in cheers, and Joy's smile thinned like glass under pressure. She turned in her chair, muttering something about Hollywood bleeding hearts, loud enough for the mic to catch. Denzel's eyes narrowed slightly, his jaw tightening as he sat back. The tension wasn't just on the table anymore. It was in the air, thick enough that every camera in the room zoomed in, waiting for the next blow. What started as a civil debate was now a full-on collision of values, with the audience eating up every second. But the real explosion? That was still to come. The laughter had died down. The tension didn't just linger, it thickened, coating the air like fog. Joy adjusted her chair slightly, giving a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Denzel sat upright now, no longer casual, his forearms resting on the table like a soldier ready for battle. "Let me tell you something," Joy started, her voice cutting through the noise with that familiar mix of sarcasm and certainty. "You Hollywood types love these feel-good ideas, but you don't think about the real-world consequences. Who's going to manage this? Who decides who qualifies? How much fraud are we opening the door to? Or do those details just not matter when we're writing policy from a soundstage?" The audience gave an uneasy chuckle. It wasn't the usual laugh. This was sharper, like they sensed the insult behind the joke. Denzel's head tilted slightly, a faint smile flickering for a second before his eyes hardened. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Joy," he said slowly, his words measured, deliberate. "I'm not coming at this from a soundstage. I'm coming at this from life." He paused, letting the silence wrap around him like armor. "You think this is theory for me? It's not.
A few years back, my mother had dementia. You ever sat with someone you love while they ask you the same question 15 times in an hour? You ever had to figure out how to keep them safe without draining every penny you worked for? Because I have. The room went still. The audience, the panel, even the camera operators seemed to freeze. Joy blinked, her mouth parting slightly as if to respond, but Denzel wasn't done. His voice deepened, trembling just enough to feel raw, human. I was making good money, Joy. I'm blessed. But even then, the cost, the emotional toll, the financial hit was staggering. Now imagine a single mom working 2 jobs, trying to care for her father at home so he doesn't die alone in a facility he hates. And then tell me with a straight face that giving her a little tax relief is bleeding heart. Gasps. A few audience members clapped instinctively before realizing applause wasn't appropriate in this moment. Whoopi's eyes softened. Sunny stared at the table, her jaw tight. Joy shifted in her seat, and for the first time all day, her confidence faltered. "Denzel," she started, her tone softer now, "I didn't know." "No, you didn't," he said, cutting her off, but not cruelly, just firmly. "Because you assume people want handouts. You assume caring for a parent is just some family errand, like picking up groceries. It's not. It's a sacrifice that can break people, financially, mentally, physically. And when the system does nothing to help, it's like telling those people their love doesn't matter." The audience erupted into applause now, not cheering, but something deeper, support, agreement, the kind that rattles the walls and forces producers in the control room to scramble. Joy leaned back, folding her arms as if trying to shield herself from the wave crashing over the table. Her tone, when she spoke again, was icy, defensive. "So what, you're saying if we don't agree with you, we don't care about family? That's not fair, Denzel. It's not about love. It's about budgets. It's about reality." Denzel leaned forward so slightly, the camera zoomed in on his face like a hawk locking onto its prey. His next words came low, but they struck like a hammer. "Reality, Joy, is sitting in a hospital at 3 a.m., wondering if you can afford another week of care. Reality is watching your mother, the woman who gave you life, lose hers inch by inch and feeling like you failed her because the system you paid into your whole life says, 'Sorry, you're on your own.' So if reality is your excuse for doing nothing, then maybe you don't understand reality at all." The studio exploded. The audience stood up. Cheers, applause, even a few shouts of "That's right!" shook the walls. Joy's smile vanished completely now, replaced by something colder, a flash of humiliation that cut through her practiced poise. "Wow," she said finally, her voice dripping with controlled venom. "So now I'm heartless because I don't agree with your Hollywood tax plan? Is that the game?" "Denzel," Joy said calmly, his hand resting on the table, his eyes unflinching, "if the shoe fits, you wear it." The crowd roared so loudly the producers were waving frantically for a commercial break. Whoopi was signaling for calm. Sunny was muttering, "Lord have mercy." And Joy? Joy's jaw tightened as her fingers gripped the edge of the table like a lifeline. But something in her expression, anger, embarrassment, maybe both, made it clear. This was no longer just a debate. It was personal now.
The commercial break didn't cool the room. It turned it into a pressure cooker. When the cameras came back on, Joy's smile had returned, but it was sharp, brittle, a blade hidden in lipstick. Denzel sat motionless, his face calm, but there was a steeliness in his eyes that said he wasn't backing down. Whoopi, sensing the crackle of static in the air, tried to soften the landing. "Okay, folks," she began, her voice smooth. "Before the break, things got a little passionate. Let's try to keep it respectful." "Respectful!" Joy let out a laugh that was more like a bark. "I've been doing this show for decades, Whoopi. I know how to be respectful, but I don't appreciate being told I don't understand reality because I happen to disagree on a tax policy." Denzel didn't move for a beat. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward Joy, his voice calm, almost too calm. "It wasn't about disagreeing, Joy. It was about dismissing. You mocked the whole idea like it was some Hollywood fantasy when it's life for millions of people, including me." "Oh, please," Joy snapped, throwing up her hands. "You're a millionaire, Denzel. Cry me a river. You want to talk about reality? Let's talk about the middle class who will end up footing the bill for your so-called compassionate tax breaks." The audience groaned audibly. A few gasps, a few boos. Joy had crossed the line and everyone knew it. Denzel's jaw tightened, but his tone didn't rise. If anything, it got softer, deadlier. "You don't dare minimize what I went through because of what I have now. Money doesn't buy time, Joy. It doesn't buy peace when you're watching your mother fade away piece by piece." He leaned in, his eyes locked on hers like a sniper scope. "And if you think the middle class is against helping families, maybe you've been sitting at this table so long you've forgot what struggling really looks like." That hit. Hard. The crowd erupted into claps and shouts of agreement. Joy flushed crimson, her fingers gripping her cue cards like they were the only thing tethering her to the table. "You know what?" she said, suddenly slamming the cards down. The smack echoed through the studio. "I'm not going to sit here and be lectured about compassion by somebody who flies private jets. You want to pay for everyone's parents? Write a check, Denzel. Leave my tax dollars out of it." The audience booed loudly now. Whoopi tried to intervene. "Joy, let's—" But Joy cut her off, her voice sharp, brittle, almost cracking. "No, enough of this sanctimony. I've had it with these self-righteous lectures from people who don't live in the real world." Denzel's expression stayed calm, but his words landed like a thunderclap. "Maybe that's why so many people don't trust voices like yours anymore, because when faced with a little humanity, you hide behind dollars and insults." He pushed back his chair, the screech of metal on tiles slicing through the tension like a blade. "And you know what? I don't need this energy." The crowd went wild. Gasps, cheers, people on their feet. Denzel stood, towering over the table, his presence so commanding the cameras instinctively followed him as he straightened his jacket. He turned slightly, looked back at Joy, who sat rigid, eyes blazing, and delivered the line that would trend worldwide before the credits even rolled. "You talk about the real world, Joy. In the real world, people take care of their own, and they don't shame others for trying to make it a little easier." With that, he walked off the set. The studio exploded. Cheers, whistles, chants of "Denzel! Denzel!" Joy sat frozen, her face a mask of fury and humiliation as Whoopi scrambled to go to break. The camera caught the last image, Denzel's broad shoulders disappearing through the stage door as Joy muttered under her breath, "Unbelievable," and slammed her mug down hard enough to slosh coffee across the table. The screen faded to black. But social media? It was already on fire.
When the cameras finally faded to black, the studio was still buzzing like a hornet's nest. Producers were scrambling, audience members were pulling out their phones, and the clip of Denzel pushing back his chair and walking off the set was already racing through the internet at the speed of light. Denzel walk-off was trending globally within minutes. Twitter, no, X, was split down the middle. Half calling Denzel a hero for standing his ground, the other half accusing Joy of being out of touch and tone-deaf. TikTok was flooded with edits of that final line. "In the real world, people take care of their own," set to dramatic music. Even Instagram had meme pages churning out side-by-side reaction shots. Joy fuming, Denzel storming out, Whoopi looking like she just wanted a vacation. Mainstream media jumped on it too. Headlines lit up the digital skyline. Denzel Washington explodes on The View, walks off over heated tax debate. Joy Behar faces backlash after clashing with Denzel on elder care. Is compassion a luxury? Viral TV moment sparks national debate. And that last question? It's what really matters here. Because this wasn't just a fight about tax breaks. It wasn't even just about Joy and Denzel. It hit a nerve, A raw, gaping nerve about what family means in America today. Who carries the weight when parents age? Who sacrifices? And should the government help ease that burden, or should it all fall on the individual? Denzel framed it as an issue of dignity and responsibility. Joy saw it as fiscal policy and fairness. But for millions watching at home, especially those who've spent sleepless nights juggling work and caring for aging parents, this wasn't theory. It was their life, playing out in real time on national television with the volume cranked up to 11. And maybe that's why this moment will linger, because beyond the walk-off, beyond the trending hashtags, lies the bigger question we all need to answer. Should the government reward people for taking care of their own? Or is that crossing a line between personal duty and public expense? Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think tax breaks for family caregivers are a necessity or a privilege? Was Denzel justified in walking off, or should he have stayed and kept debating? And what does this clash tell us about the state of empathy and leadership in today's America? Drop your thoughts below. And if you love this fiery showdown, hit subscribe, because we've got more explosive debates, raw truths, and viral TV moments coming your way. Because sometimes the conversations that matter most are the ones that make us uncomfortable.